Not promote or promotion any illegal activities. All content provided by this channel is meant only for educational purpose only.
I love what Mikey does. Sometimes I'm like, yo, you over the edge, TMZ with it. But
the boy gonna do you something nasty.
I hate to say it, more times than not, he get the results he wants.
Right, and to be honest with you, I honestly don't think it's over. Honestly, I think exactly what this state needs. We've always needed a platform where we can call out the nonsense,
the repercussions,
and give people the props that they deserve, and call out the people who are full of it. And honestly, I think that more and more people are starting to utilize Mike's platform for that. And honestly, I know a lot of folks. A lot of people talk to me, "Oh, Emerson, like you're on there and you talk this and you talk that," and I'm like, "Listen," I said, name one thing that he's been wrong about. And then there's silence.
But boy.
Right.
Because they know. Because honestly, like that stuff that's being exposed, they're like, "Oh, damn, how did he find out about it?" And again, Mike has his sources, and I never get into that. But at the end of the day, what he exposes is the truth. And people don't want to hear that. They want to hear the watered down version. They want to hear, "Oh, well, we don't do no talking. We know what they do for the views. If I took a loss, no, I got it all back. They just want to talk, so we gonna talk facts. Yeah. Got it out the mud, got it out the mud. Really on the blood, really on the blood. Yeah, they know it's up, yeah, they know it's up.
Eddie O'Brien, oh, what a story to tell. 15 years young, caught in a prison cell. Trapped in the system, ain't that just a shame? For a crime he didn't do, they played him like a game. Pattern so clear, yet nobody sees. Intentional lies blowing in the breeze. Documented truths, but they're buried so deep. Poor kid lost his life while the system's asleep. Free Eddie, free him till it's backward. Guilty on paper, but he never had the hard facts. Let a fool think he won, that's how it goes. Eddie's innocence buried beneath all the woes. The man couldn't keep his own story straight. Taking the kid's future, ain't that real fate? Welcome back, chat got us talking hood-wise. Dark humor and metaphors disguised in the cries. Sir, hypothetically, in a murder case, ain't it funny how a fool runs this rat race? Growth don't happen in the middle of this mess. Step back, breathe, man, just let go of the stress. Free Eddie, free him till it's backward. Guilty on paper, but he never had the hard facts. Let a fool think he won, that's how it goes. Eddie's innocence buried beneath all the woes. See, you gotta let the clowns believe they succeeded. You didn't fold a break, you just got what you needed. Took it to the chin, not the heart, you see. Don't let the chaos take space in your melody. You're built different, like a lesson they missed. Teaching them boundaries, couldn't find them on a list. Drowning in a puddle, they dragged you below. But now you let them flounder, 'cause they reap what they sow. So here's to Eddie, justice long overdue. Fighting for the truth like we all have to do. Step back from the noise, watch him throw a fit. Free Eddie O'Brien, let's never forget this. Eddie O'Brien, oh, what a story to tell. Fighting for his life in this unjust hell. Free him till it's backward. Guilty on paper, but he never had the hard facts. Let a fool think he won, that's how it goes. Eddie's innocence buried beneath all the woes. Eddie O'Brien, oh, what a story to tell. 15 years young, caught in a prison cell. Trapped in the system, ain't that just a shame? For a crime he didn't do, they played him back again.
20 years on the run, thought he'd outrun his fate. A man who thought the ocean could hide him from hate. But the tides are turning and justice won't drown. A coalition of agencies won't let him wear the crown. The silver lining wasn't an escape, didn't save his skin. It was the end of the line, the beginning of his sin. Truth in the air, heavy as a stone. Victim's testimony still echoing along. The judge's eyes steady, the jury's gaze sharp. Fisher sits in silence, the stillness like a harp. First degree sexual assault, a storm closing in, a charge that walks toward you. Can't escape it, my friend.
Good morning, good afternoon. Who the hell knows what time it is where you are? But what's up, everybody? How we doing? What is happening? Like always, man, free Eddie. Shout out to Eddie O'Brien. There's Rule 30 coming up very soon. Good luck with that. But you see the name of this one, for over 2 decades. This guy was convicted, like in 2005, this dude, this ain't his original picture, this is some AI picture, but 2005, he was on trial in Newport, Rhode Island for first degree the R word, and for more than 2 decades, he's basically been a ghost, moving through the, what they say, through the cracks of the Northeast. Well, back in 2005, maybe he thought his trial was going well, but he ended up writing his lawyers a letter, and I think that is, hang on, I'll get that. I got that in the banner box already. Here we go. It basically said, although I believe my trial has gone very well and expect to be acquitted and dismissed, a small chance of losing could carry extremely and unacceptable harsh penalties. Fisher wrote, he said, I have therefore decided not to take the risk and leave the United States and enjoy life in another country, where I have long been carefully planning, a good, safe, secure, and comfortable life. And I think the investigators actually said afterwards that, yeah, he was planning. Good afternoon, Big Ed O'Brien. Hello, everybody in the chat. How you all doing today? I guess the lawyer said that this guy was actually planning on bouncing, you know, planning on skipping out. You know, from what they say, I don't think he was a very, very nice guy. Let me see here. I think I had some over here. Here it is. Is that it? I'm gonna play a quick clip. Okay, let's see. Okay, just let me take this down. Yeah, so you know, so he ended up leaving. He ended up bouncing, taking off, right? Just leaving. Nobody knows where he went. You know, he just never went to court. He was out of there. You know, he was on America's Most Wanted, which we will actually put that on. There we go. Now we're getting somewhere. Oh, dang, man.
You know the bad thing about it? You're matching up to him. That sucks, doesn't it? Yeah. Now, when I crossed the tracks down there, I saw you running. I said, well, Fisher. Well, it's a hot day. It's almost 100 degrees.
Came forward to share their horror stories.
Ronald Fischer. Well, it's a hot day. It's almost 100 degrees.
In the 1980s, Ronald Fischer was living the high life.
All right, Ron. We've got the camera on.
Fischer was a Harvard-educated anesthesiologist who flaunted his money and
Yeah, it's not a bad thing, right?
But over the next 2 decades, Fischer got too big for his libido. Cops say he became a hunter of women, a sex addict who used personal ads to lure women onto his boat and then attacked them. That's what landed him on America's Most Wanted a year ago.
Oh, yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
He's a very high-level manipulator. He's a pathological liar.
He pushed her onto the bed. He threw his body on top of her.
We showed you how he ran away in the middle of a rape trial, leaving his lawyer.
Yeah, he was out. The letter that he left was, he said, although I believe my trial has gone very well and expect to be acquitted and dismissed, the small chance, that I get convicted, he says, so I decided not to take that risk. He said, I'm outie. He didn't want to take any chances. He didn't want to take any chances at all.
This obnoxious note.
The small chance of losing could carry extremely and unacceptably harsh penalties. I've therefore decided not to take the risk and to leave the U.S. and enjoy life in another country, where I've long been carefully planning a good, safe, secure, and comfortable life.
Despite his absence, the trial continued. It ended with a conviction and a victim denied justice.
I pray that they catch him because he's a dangerous man. He's dangerous no matter what country he's in. He's dangerous to women, wherever that may be.
We got a lot of calls and emails from people who didn't know where Fischer was, but knew all too well where he had been, because they dated him. More than a dozen women contacted us.
So you said he tried to take you to a swingers party.
How long you been corresponding with him? Here's a picture.
They knew Fischer as who he claimed to be, a wealthy doctor with a fancy yacht who lived in an upscale part of Rhode Island.
And he basically just comes into the club, have a drink. Well, I mean, what does he do? Does he try to pick up women or what?
For the women who called us, Ronald Fischer's story wasn't just repulsive, it was personal.
I'm Cindy, and I dated Ronald Fischer.
My name's Babette, and I dated Ronald Fischer.
My name is Joy, and I dated Ronald Fischer.
I never thought that I would be dating somebody that was convicted of rape.
My knees buckled, and I realized I was alone in his apartment, and I could have been a rape victim.
Three of the women accepted our invitation to meet and discuss their experiences with Ronald Fischer.
His victims got no justice for 20 years. But you know what? Time has a funny way of doubling back, but his best years are behind him now. And this week, the Rhode Island Violent Fugitive Task Force, and they was working with the FBI, the Coast Guard, all the alphabets, every single one. I guess they closed the chapter. They actually caught this guy hiding on a 56-foot sailboat under a fake identity. I mean, he was off the coast of Jersey. I guess a couple of days ago, they ended up finding out that he was going to be where his boat was going to be.
Into Fischer's personality and his tactics helped us to break down his MO. Each of the women said they were lured in by an online personal ad that made Ronald Fischer sound like a dream come true.
He told me his name was Ronald Anderson.
I was told his name was Kevin.
He put himself out there as a early 40s physician who liked the finer things in life, was active, well-traveled, and I spoke with him on the phone several times before actually arranging to have coffee with him.
All of the women had high hopes for their first dates, but those hopes were dashed the moment Fischer walked in the door.
He walked in, And I too thought, first of all, he's not 40. He, had a very weathered, kind of pockmarked look and a bad comb over. And I thought, don't judge a book by its cover. He's very nice. He made complete sentences and he's breathing. So let's, move on. I thought, he's a doctor. I can go back to his apartment. He plays chess. I mean, my God, he went to Harvard. No danger here. He tried to do the sidling up and the moving down. It's a sectional sofa, so he moved down the sectional and I moved down a little bit, and then the arm came around, and it really, at one point I thought I must be on candid camera. This is like that bad 70s show where somebody's trying to make out with me, and it was just, he was very fumbly and kind of groping, and he finally said to me, "What's wrong with you? Don't you like sex? Are you frigid?"
Comments like that are classic Fisher. No matter how suave he tries to be, the women say his conversations always come back to sex.
He commented that, well, he had a party he wanted to bring me to. And it was a different kind of party. And I can be naive sometimes. I said, what kind of a party? And he kept saying to me, "Are you conservative?" And I said, well, in the right situation, I can be conservative. If I'm at a business function, I can be conservative.
This wasn't a Republican National
It
Committee.
it was not. And he said to me, "It's a swingers party."
That's so inappropriate.
And that was a telephone conversation. And I couldn't speak. And I said, no, there's no way that I would do this with you. And he said, "Well, I guess you are conservative."
If he's doing the swingers thing, he can have, that's like pay your $9.99 and buffet all night, right?
So conquers and moves on, or as
he's got all the free sex he wants.
right. So
Conquest. It's the hunt.
It's the hunt.
It's the hunt.
For Fisher, the hunt always involves flaunting his wealth and ultimately luring women to his overhyped boat.
I did go on his boat, and I first thought that it wasn't his boat, that maybe this is someone else's boat. Maybe he's boat sitting.
He talked at length about the yacht and how, they on my yacht I only serve with crystal, and yacht this and yacht that. And
It was like white furniture, very cheesy, kind of not. For a boat of that size, I would think it would have more elegant, maybe just something a little nicer on that type of a boat.
This is that yacht, the Lion King, the boat where Ronald Fisher lured his prey.
It turns out the boat was being completely renovated when police found it last summer.
They discovered that Fisher sold it for a mere $60,000 to pocket the money before going on the run. But even though cops have found the boat and dozens of women have surfaced who have dated Fisher, the investigation, much like the boat, is still high and dry.
That's why we need your help tonight. Fisher is a creature of habit, and we're sure of one thing. Fisher is still out there looking for women to seduce.
You all dated him. You've now met 2 other women who have dated him. Do you know of other women who have dated him?
Yes. Just do the math. There are how many women we all know in our circles who've dated him? Okay, so they've told 2 people, he's dating multiple people at the same time. How many date rapes?
These brave women have given us some great insights into Fisher. Now let's review the clues that could help you spot him. Cops say he loves the water and could still be living on a boat. He has friends in Brazil and could be overseas. He speaks several languages. He loves playing tennis and chess, and he's a smooth talker with the ladies. Police say he's politically conservative and not shy.
we're going to talk about the Rule 30 as well. So, yeah, I just want to talk a little bit about this guy because, no matter where you go, man, no matter where you run, look at Whitey Bulger. This guy was facing serious felony charges, and what put him in that position, he was on trial for first-degree sexual assault, and that's probably one of the most severe sex-related charges in the Rhode Island, code. But this level of assault involves force, coercion, maybe the victim didn't consent, was it violent? It carries decades in prison if convicted, and he probably knew it. So in 2005, when his criminal trial was underway, one day Fisher had everything set up. He didn't just miss a court date. Shit, he abandoned the whole trial. He said, I'm out of here. But because he ran, the trial still continued without him. He was convicted in his absence of first-degree sexual assault, and a warrant immediately issued. And this is like the highest level of warrants that you can actually get. But once he crossed state lines, began hiding. The guy that just got caught. Yeah, he just got caught after 20 years. Yep, what a piece of shit. Absolutely. But once he crossed them state lines, the U.S. Marshal's Office got involved, an unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. That warrant was issued, and they'll always get you. That's for sure. But he got 20 years out of his shit, hiding out in Jersey. Unbelievable. Unfreaking believable. So what's going on, everybody? How we doing? Free Eddie. I just wanted to start off a little bit about this guy, in the courtroom, 2005. I mean, he knew what was at stake. He knew if he did it or not. Some people say, what was he running from? He was running from a lot of time in prison, first degree S charge, one of the most serious violent felonies under Rhode Island law. I mean, shit, that type of charge alone is a storm. Decades of prison time. Then you get the weight of the victim's trauma. It carries the full force of the justice system, and they usually hit you up with a little something, something. But it's like any other state. Most of these guys, it's a walk in the park when they go to jail now. You know what I mean? A lot of these rippers and stuff, they just get away with this stuff. They give them, a special part of the building, and before you know, oh, they're healed. They're not scumbags anymore. But the judge didn't pause this case. The judge kept on going, convicted him. But from that moment on, he wasn't just a defendant, convicted first degree sexual offender, wanted for failure to appear. So he'll also have that charge. So on top of whatever he's doing, his age, he'll probably spend the rest of his life in prison. Imagine that. The rest of his life he'll spend locked up in prison. That is a shame for that man. It's definitely a shame for him. But when we come back, we're going to talk about the Rule 30 motion. Since Eddie O'Brien is getting so close to the Rule 30 motion, I figured we'll talk about the procedure a little bit, what you got to go through, what he's going to go through, with the motion, how it all plays out, and, Eddie's going to be focusing on two vital a whole lot, but two big pieces for that Rule 30, and I'll break it down in just a minute. You know, if you want to hook your boy up, gift a membership. We really appreciate it. You know, try to keep this going. But yeah, give me a minute. You already know we'll be right back.
Where the whispers play, the door of the frame holds the secrets of the day. Locked on to Eddie, they whispered his name. Caught in a tempest, a life gone insane. Down in the dark, where the cellar path runs, a set of keys hit the dirt under disappearing suns. A house key, a car key, lost in the rush. But the state swept it up like a hand in the crush. Eddie's freedom cry, can you hear it loud? Breaking through the darkness, piercing the shroud. 30 years in chains, but the truth won't die. Unseal the past, let Eddie rise high. Unseal the notes, expose all the blocks. Rayleigh trapped Eddie in a manufactured box. 30 years of hidden facts buried in the track. It is time to give Eddie O'Brien his freedom back. Unseal the box, break down the lock. Let the truth ring louder than the courthouse clock. 3 decades of silence, a cold prison shell. Refuse to lie, they cast a wicked spell. No remorse in their eyes, they judge from the booth. But Eddie stands tall, anchored in truth. Summer is opening, the science is real. The manufactured box begins to peel. Voices collide as hope takes its stand. With every heartbeat echoes a drowning band. Eddie's freedom cry, can you hear it loud? Breaking through the darkness, piercing the shroud. 30 years in chains, but the truth won't die. Unseal the past, let Eddie rise The drums roll thunder through the halls of despair. With strings and brass, they unite in the air. A symphony of chaos reflects in the night. The fight for Eddie grows bigger, takes flight. Beneath boundless skies, the walls start to shake. Each note of resistance, a wave in the wake. A revolution of honesty will cut through the lies. As the world turns its gaze, a new dawn will rise. So gather the voices who waited too long for Eddie O'Brien. We'll sing out strong. His freedom
all the voices that should have helped him win. The purpose of the hearing was to guide him through. Yet they tossed the science like they never knew. Too dangerous, too damaged, oh, that's not who he was. Just a child in a system without a pause. Every single expert, they knew the facts. Non-violent heart, it's not an act. He was meant for healing, not this dark fate. But the court turned blind and sealed up the gate. Oh. They focused on the wounds as if pain could define the essence of a kid who's meant to shine. A constitutional failure right before our eyes, lost in the shuffle where justice dies. America, can you see? Can you open the door to the voices unheard? Fighting for more. Every single expert, they knew the facts. Non-violent heart, it's not an act. He was meant for healing, not this dark fate. But the court turned blind and sealed up the gate. Eddie's story is a lesson, not just for today. A reminder to listen, to show a better way. When the voices of the many are ignored with disdain, we've lost the battle and it's all in vain. Let the echoes of the experts ring loud and clear. For every Eddie standing there, we cannot disappear.
All right, people, here I am, we back. But what is going on, everybody? How we doing? You know, I'm going to try to get through this. If I seem a little, like, I don't know, out of it, I'm kind of, yeah. You know, just one of them days. You know, you get some information earlier that just kind of throws you for a loop, you know, and it's like, I don't know. So, you know, but it's all good. But the Route 30 motion, Eddie O'Brien, you know, his lawyers are going to be, you know, filing their Route 30 motion, which everybody knows. We've been talking about it, you know, over and over. I mean, out of all the horrific cases under Tom Riley's watch, you know, this case right here, it just, you start reading into it and it kind of, you know, it grabs a hold of you, you know, because of the, you know, how young Eddie was, you know, the brutal crime, you know, the brutal, you know, what Janet went through, you know, it was horrific, horrible, you know, and to see everything that Eddie O'Brien went through, you know, was horrible as well. You know, 30 years in prison for a crime that you never committed. You know, nobody should ever have to experience that. I mean, look at Eddie Wright, 41 years locked up. 41 years locked up in jail for a crime that he never committed. I mean, think about that. Some of his loneliest, coldest days, just laying there, in a prison cell, for a crime that you didn't commit. But when you look at the record, when you look at the history, when you look at the notes, it becomes clear. But we know under Tom Riley's, watch up there at Middlesex, there was 7 unsolved crimes. Deanna Cremens, Mary Jo Frug, Esther Olsofson. I always butcher that last name. Michael Gardner, Eddie Semino, Lila Fagundes, Yuri Woods. These were all brutal, brutal crimes. All tragic crimes, and they are all deserving of justice. But yet, like I said before, Riley never prosecuted any of these crimes. Like anything else, if you're gonna sit down and do something, you gotta know what you're doing. Riley never sitting on a jury. No experience. Just picking it up and going with it. But even the crimes that his office did secure convictions of, I think there was 9 or 10 of them. You probably wouldn't recognize any of names in there as well. So why does Eddie's name, ring so loud? Riley takes, something that no district attorney does. Something that no district attorney does, and sits on this case. For one, you got to have experience at it. He wants to personally prosecute a 15-year-old in a case that would change. That's the important thing right here. Change juvenile law in Massachusetts forever. I think there was an article somewhere that they was writing about using Eddie's trial for your own political ends or your own political means. Grandstanding, using Eddie's trial as a political vehicle that you could ride straight to higher office. This was all planned. And guess what? He did. He won Attorney General. He got lucky. But at what cost? At what cost? Something that on a separate note, like the local football team, right? They brought in they got a new coach that really has no experience at doing this, and it's like, we're just going to let them go out there and coach. Like, yeah, but what if, you're going to depend on this person to be able to put out a good product, and you don't even know if they ever done it before. You're putting a lot of faith into their hands, so at what cost? Riley said he had personal responsibilities for Janet. Riley wasn't trying to change domestic violence laws. He didn't care about that. He wasn't trying to fix homicides. He was trying to solve these crimes while he was watching them pile up under his watch. All he cared about was changing them juvenile justice laws. And he wanted a case that would make headlines and not justice. We all lost when Tom Riley chose this case. Everyone lost except for Tom Riley. The Downing family lost. They'll never find out what was true and what was not. The O'Brien family lost a son. The state lost justice. Eddie lost years of his life. And also, one man could climb a stupid political ladder. So you can make a little bit more money. So you can have a little bit of more power. Before we get into the Rule 30, let me just close this out. This is why I think this case is different. Not because the evidence pointed, to Eddie. The evidence pointed away from Eddie. Not because the evidence was airtight, because we know that's not what was true. It was different because Tom Riley needed it to be different. And now with the Rule 30, the true Tom Riley buried is finally coming back to collect. Unbelievable. Oh, I'm so aggravated. It was different because Tom Riley needed it to be different, right? And now with the Rule 30, coming, maybe Eddie can finally get justice, Rule 30, notes, timelines, DNA. But sometimes you just want to zoom out and you want to look at it from a lens from far away and look at the whole picture. Look at a simple picture, right? Why was Eddie's case the one that Tom Riley grabbed with both hands, when so many other families never even got that level of attention? Look at what I call the quiet graveyard. The crimes left behind because we already know during Tom Riley's time at Middlesex DA's office, right, there were multiple horrific crimes. Yuri Woods, Lila, Eddie Semino, Michael Gardner, Esther, Mary Jo, Deanna Kremlins. You know, remember them names. Don't forget them. We just can't be forgetting stuff. We have to remember everybody that was affected, all brutal, all deserving of justice, you know, and with families who woke up every day with no answers. See, Riley didn't personally prosecute those other cases. He didn't make them his cause. He didn't stand in front of cameras and promise the victims that he's going to see it through himself. Nope. Those families got silenced, you know, they got unsolved, they're still being investigated, or are they? But what's the one case he turned into a stage? You know, and here comes Eddie O'Brien, a 15-year-old kid, no record, right? No history of violence, right? Plays video games, sits on a couch, you know, and chills out in the summertime. You know, and this is the case Tom Riley decides to personally prosecute. This is the case. He turned Eddie's case into, you know, some big performance. So ask yourself, was this really about justice, or was it about visibility, or is it about something else? You know, what is your message? Was it about justice? Was it about something else? Like, what are you trying to say? But the hard truth is that a lot of these unsolved crimes don't help a politician's career. Big shout out to Aunt Jerry, a member for 3 months. That's what I'm talking about. 3 months. Imagine that. I've been doing this like hardcore, day in, day out, for 3 months. Longer than 3 months, but I mean, like, you know, like nonstop, religiously, day in, day out, reading case file, reading files. You know, it's great that, you know, talking about this stuff, you know, but I think it's important to know what you're talking about. You know, because, you know, people are going to take your word, you know, and they're going to take it to the bank. And you definitely don't want to tell anyone, you know, give them some bad information. And that's why I was so nervous about doing this, you know, because we're talking about a high profile crime. And what I was looking at is like, I'll be damned if I say something on here and I'm wrong. And this poor kid takes what I say and takes it all the way to the bank and he gets taxed. You know, I will feel horrible, you know. You know, so I think it's important to thank you. I really appreciate it. You know, I think it's important to be as accurate as you can when you're talking about stuff like this, because you know what? Someone's future depends on it. It's not a game. You know what I mean? It's not something that, you just decide, I'm gonna, let's do this. Let's talk about this. Unless you really know, like I would have been like, I wouldn't have got into it. I was nervous coming in and talking about it because, this Eddie's life is on the line here. No, not his life, whether he lives or dies, but his freedom is on the line here. You only get this one shot. And I'll be damned if I was going to be the one to F it up. You know what I mean? To say something that was stupid that it sits on Eddie forever. Now Eddie has a tag. Because I'm out here representing Eddie O'Brien. I'm talking about Eddie. I'm picking Eddie up. So people even though I'm not per se a representative of Eddie O'Brien, people, they look at me like I am a representative of Eddie. So when I say things, or you just better be damn sure that you're giving people the right information. And the research is out there for anybody to get. But thank you. I really appreciate that. The information is out there. But just do the right research. And this goes if you're talking about Eddie, if you're talking about Jimmy, John, no matter who it is, because there's a lot of men that are sitting in these prisons that are truly innocent, man. A lot of broken hearts, a lot of messed up homes, a lot of messed up families, a lot of kids growing up with no father, no brother, no uncle. A lot of families are out there in the real world with no son. So I just didn't want to get into this and give some bad information out, and that would have really hurt Eddie, or because a lot of this stuff, it's memorialized. It's out there. It's out there forever. It could never be taken back. It could never be taken back. You're getting up here and, we're publicly speaking on people's lives. You know what I mean? Saying some serious things, and it's very, very hurtful because, you see Eddie, and Eddie wasn't no teen killer. He wasn't no super predator. They just wanted to use him to push tougher juvenile laws because they had a white boy. Oh, we can use this white kid to push this law, even though we want the law for the black and brown kids. But we don't want to look racist. We don't want to look like we're being fair and even. We know what this case was about. We know what they were trying to do. You ever heard Joe Biden speak about super predators? And when Tom Riley chose Eddie's case in his personal stage, he knew what he was doing. The fix was in. See, and Tom Riley didn't know what he was doing, and he ruined Eddie's life. Maybe he thought, oh, Eddie will get it straightened out when he goes up for an appeal. They'll figure it out. But that's what happened when you don't know what you're doing. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Really appreciate that. So the Downing family, they lost a chance at a full, honest investigation that looked at all the suspects, right? They didn't get that. Eddie O'Brien, you know, what did the O'Brien family lose? You want to get a list together? They lost their son. You know, and Jerry lost a nephew. You know, the girls lost a brother, huh? The girls lost a brother. You know, I mean, not lost like Eddie's not there. I mean, but it's still different. It's not like Eddie's in the next room. You know, the families of the unsolved victims, they lost, you know, attention that they so much deserved. You know, I've been talking about Eddie so much, you know, like I feel a connection to Eddie. You know what I mean? Even though I don't know him at all. Never talked to him. You know, I do this because it's the right thing to do. You know, and I mean, it just isn't about one bad prosecution. You know, there's a whole friggin' pattern here. You know, some victims get turned into headlines. You know what I mean? Some kids get turned into examples, you know, and some families get turned into props. And people just want to build a name off them, you know. And some of these, you know, people that are victimized, you know, the Janet Downings of the world, you know, they get left behind because they don't fit the story. You know, their cases weren't important enough. And Eddie's case was different because Riley needed it to be different. And I know I got completely off topic, right? And now we can kind of get into the Rule 30 a little, you know. You know, we have to ask the court to look at what it allowed to happen. Like, this Rule 30, they're not just asking the court to look at what happened to Eddie. We want the state of Massachusetts to look at what the state allowed to happen under, what do they call it? The banner of justice? Under the banner of justice. Judge, what did Judge McDaniels allow to happen? Right? Heffernan, you know, he just stepped back so quietly. You didn't say anything. You didn't speak up. You allowed that to happen. You know, how many things can you type in the chat what Riley didn't want you to notice? Well, thank you. Really appreciate that. So now we got the Rule 30 here, right? And we're not just asking the court to look at, like, you know, you got to look at everything. You know, this poor family, you know, because this timeline breakdown, I mean, you know, but you look at how political Eddie's prosecution was, right? And how many other families never got the attention, right? Never got the resources, the personal promises that Tom Riley claimed he gave to Janet Downing. I guess they just didn't fight hard enough. Yes, I got it. Thank you. Yeah, we only seen little pieces of it, so you know we're gonna I'm gonna format it. I'm gonna clean it up, and yeah, we're definitely going to play that. You know, that was the interview where he was being interviewed when he said about, you know, when they asked if he had a crush on Janet. You know, there was that interview. You know, but if we slowed this down, you know, like remember when you used to work at the carnival, you know, the flying bobs, they say, you know, we're gonna slow this down, put your feet back on the ground and walk through this slowly. Because when you start laying out the timeline, right, the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. You know, but a lot of these cases, like I said, I told you all their names earlier. A lot of these cases, man, no, you know, Riley didn't care about none of them until it got to Janet. You know, because if we look at this timeline, right, 1995, right? Let me put this up inside where, let's see. Oh, okay, all right. I looked at the email and there was yes, it was a Boston News channel. Yes. I'll get that set up for tomorrow. You know, so the murder of Janet, right? This is the one that Riley chose. This was a great turning point. Absolutely. You know, it was a horrific crime, absolutely. A tragedy, no doubt. But unlike the others, Riley steps in and says, oh, I'm going to prosecute this case personally. Why? Why did Riley feel he had to give this case so much attention? You know, I'm prosecuting this case personally, he said, not supervising it. He wasn't delegating this case, right? He said personally. Now, let me tell you, family, right? This has never happened before. Tom Riley has never, I looked up and down, never prosecuted any of these cases, any case personally. Why this case, right? Why this 15-year-old boy, right? Why in this very moment, in this time, in 1995, 1997, we know it was the year of the super predators. That narrative was exploding all across America, everywhere. I just hate the way Joe Biden talks about it. You know, this was the year that politicians were scrambling to look tough on juvenile crime. This was the year that Riley needed a headline. And Eddie O'Brien, oh, that kid became his headline. This kid just wanted to play video games. Sega. Remember Sega? He didn't want to be a political pawn. He wanted to play video games. Video games. Instead.
Yeah. Yeah, he should've. Yeah, 15 years old, trapped in the storm. Eddie faced the world, trying to keep warm. Caught in the system, had nowhere to go. D.A. Riley stepped up, but didn't feel the flow. Tried him as an adult, like he was a beast. But Eddie was just baby, still searching for peace. The court didn't listen. Judgment was fast, but deep down inside, Eddie knew he'd outlast. Eddie should've got rehabilitated. In a youth center, they underestimated. But he rose from the ashes, turned pain into drive. Changed policies, kept the hope alive. Riley thought he drowned, thought he'd get crushed. But that young heart post never lost that rush. Locked up in the cell, thought he wouldn't survive. But Eddie found the strength to help others thrive. So he spoke up for those who couldn't be heard. Gave a voice to the voiceless, spitting truth with his words. Redefined the prison, made the system rethink. From broken to whole, he showed them their link. Eddie should've got rehabilitated. In a youth center, they underestimated. But he rose from the ashes, turned pain into drive. Changed policies, kept the hope alive. Maybe it's fate, maybe it's a plan. Sent to light the way, like a guiding hand. God's designed to minister the broken souls. Eddie walked the path, made the system whole. From the dark of despair to the light of the truth. Eddie's life story, the wisdom of youth. Changed the laws, brought awareness to the game. Now prison standing tall, never feeling the same. So when you see a kid with a troubled past, remember Eddie's fight, how he rose from the crash. He's more than a case, he's a beacon of light, proving every single day that wrong can turn right. Eddie should've got rehabilitated. In the youth center, they underestimated. But he rose from the ashes, turned pain into drive. Changed policies, kept the hope alive. So here's to Eddie, breaking every chain. From a victim of the system to breaking the rain. Maybe he was fate, a godsend in disguise. Changing prison lives, giving hope to the wise. Yeah.
So we was talking about the whole super predator BS. You know, Riley needs a headline. You know, 1995. You know, and then comes around 1996, Eddie's transfer hearing and his trial, and Riley ended up using this case to push the juvenile law changes. And this is very important about the Rule 30. You know, Riley he stands in front of these cameras, he gives his speeches, you know, half crooked man that he is. You know, he frames Eddie as the face of youth violence. Meanwhile, the murderers of Deanna, right, Mary Jo, Esther, Michael Gardner, Eddie Semino, you know what I mean, Lila, Yuri Woods, they all remain unsolved. No personal involvement, no press conferences, no promises. They don't count because what? They didn't fight hard enough. So now Eddie sits in prison after convicted in 97. A child, a baby, tried as an adult, a conviction built on an illegal search, right? Manipulated timelines, suppressed notes, right? The DNA mismatched, right? A hospital, he got ambushed at the hospital. How about the other suspects, you know? How about Mr. Ortiz? How about Mr. Downing? You know, how about talking to them? Like, you ignored all of that. And while Eddie's life is destroyed, Tom Riley climbs that political ladder he should have fell off face first. You know, he becomes attorney general, you know, a big political figure, you know, the face on tough on crime. And while all those, how about those other families, those other victims, right? They remain just unforgotten. Oh, well, we don't have time. They didn't fight hard enough. You see the pattern? And when you lay out the timeline like this and you start off with that first transfer hearing and everything that went on during that transfer hearing, the truth hits different. Eddie's case wasn't different because the evidence pointed to Eddie O'Brien. It wasn't different because his case was airtight, right? It wasn't difference between, you know what, did the Commonwealth have a stronger case? You know, it was different because Tom Riley needed it to be different. He needed a headline, right? He needed a juvenile defendant. He needed a political springboard. You know, a case that he could turn into a spectacle. This guy, Tom Riley, it just gets me so upset and angry, and you know, I shouldn't let this stuff bother me. But Eddie, a 15-year-old kid, became a sacrifice. You know, if you're a person with feelings and emotions, how can you not let this bother you? You know, you look at the timeline, everything. The Rule 30 motion is about to expose it. Hang on 1 second. Let me see. You know, I'll tell you what Riley didn't want you to notice. He didn't want you to notice them other bodies, them other cases. He didn't want you to notice that. He didn't want you to notice the political timing of all this, that it was 1995. It was a political moment, right? He didn't want you to notice that, people. You know what else he didn't want you to notice? Those handwritten notes. That's right. The ones Eddie fought decades to get. The Commonwealth's own confession. Riley didn't want you to notice that. What else Riley didn't want you to notice? Let's see. The 3-day delay. He didn't want you to notice that. Was there a sale on it? I bet he didn't want you to notice that either. My father-in-law, very mild man. First thing he said was, this election year. Who is in another state? It's insane. Grandma Day. Speaking of that, today is my granddaughter's birthday. My wife just went to go over there to say happy birthday to her. Yeah, I miss my grandkids. You know, my granddaughter says to me and my wife when she was leaving the other day, she said, I miss you guys. And it's just like, boy, it crushed me. I was like, ouch. You know, to hear your grandkids say that, you know, and your son works so much, so it's hard to really see them as much as you want, you know, and they're separated too. So it's like, oh man, it's, those with grandchildren, I bet, can relate. So yeah, today's her birthday. She's 5 years old, and you know, my wife and my 2 daughters just went over there. But yeah, those handwritten notes, man, them notes that Eddie fought decades to get. Grandchildren, you know what, Trish? I realized the best part about having kids is grandchildren. And what's even greater is when at the end of the day you can send them all home. It's like go home. But I'll tell you what, I wouldn't want nothing more if I could. I would have a compound, a nice piece of land. I wish like the land that I'm on, you know, and I would build like these big metal buildings, and I would have, you know, all my family, you know, all my kids and their grandkids, they would all be here with me. That would be an ultimate, you know, goal, an ultimate dream. You know, and then they have their own house in the back of the farm, so, you know, they'll be able to go home. But, you know, I mean, I think you know, raising my kids, I think when they became 18 and went out on their own, the one thing I missed was taking care of them. You know, like I still want to be able to take care of them, you know. You know, I guess it's just one of those days, right? You know, one of those days, and we know Riley is still a real piece of work. You know, looking over some other things that Riley didn't want you to notice. Now, why do you have the phone scratched out? You know, the hospital ambush he has written down next to that, very cooperative. He didn't want you to notice that this case wasn't built on evidence, right? That it was built on bullshit. It was built on manipulation. You know what I mean? And I love when they say, Mikey don't debunk nothing. He don't challenge nothing. What am I going to challenge? A cab with blood on it's allowed to leave the crime scene? Can I challenge that shit? Mikey don't challenge nothing. What do I challenge? The case was built on manipulation. Can I challenge that? I mean, I get sick of hearing that. Mikey don't challenge nothing. He don't debunk nothing. What am I going to debunk? That a clean, kid that's cooperating is being framed as a monster? When the real trail of blood was probably rolling away on 4 wheels? Is that what I debunk? Or you can't win. What can I debunk? That, Janet was stabbed 98 times and Eddie had a little micro drop of blood on him? What do I debunk? No blood at midnight, no blood on Eddie. 5 to 7 minutes. I don't get it, man. I don't know. I mean, look, this timeline wasn't just wrong. This shit's like physically impossible. Think about that. 98 stab wounds, right? The manipulation to the clothing, however it happened. The forensic, cleaning up after the crime, right? 0 blood on Eddie, right? 0 blood at the store. A perfect walk away, right? And he did it all in 5 to 7 minutes when everybody is outside, talking on the front porch. Well, the timeline it's not just wrong, it's physically impossible. Oh yeah, how about the juvenile ambush? Like, oh yeah, let's go. You lie to Eddie's parents, you try to neutralize one of them when you interrogated him in the hospital. You violated like the 5th and 6th Amendment. This is all stuff that will be in the Rule 30 motion. And I think once people start to see the pattern, right, you can't unsee that. You can't unsee that shit. You can't bend the evidence, right? This guy had control of the media. He could push the reform, all the climb of political ladder. That's all he did. And I hope the judge sees that, I believe Eddie 100%. I think they're always there for guidance. Their blood runs through us. And I really believe sometimes, when you you ask a question or you're thinking of that person, and sometimes a certain smell will come across, the wind will blow a certain way, and it would just be and that'll remind you of your grandmother or your mother or your father, and right then that message that you've been looking for, it's there. It really is, man. I really believe that that the ones in life that we had special connections to, I really believe that their spirit watches over us. Call me crazy or whatever, but so whether it's your nana, whether it's your grandmother, whether it's your mom, like they're watching over y'all. They are. It's just that we have free will. We have free will. I got a feeling like everybody's like halfway crying in this section today. But yeah, the truth is louder now, I think, over the last 3 months, that we've been on here, basically every day, breaking down the Eddie O'Brien, case. And a lot of it comes right from the truthabouteddieobrien.com. All the information is there. You just got to go and look for it. You just got to go and grab it. It's all there. For almost 30 years, the Commonwealth counted on the public. They didn't want them to notice these things that we just talked about, what Riley didn't want us to know. Right? They counted on the silence, on fear. They counted on a narrative holding up, right? But now, since I've been out here talking about all this stuff, and other people have too, I don't want to take any credit. Wow, yes, honeybee, I believe that 100%. So the month that I was wrongly charged and in jail, I had no idea the hell that was being created for me on the outside. 2 weeks in, my grandma came to me in my dreams and showed me what was happening. I, of course, didn't want to believe it, but the energy was so strong, I knew to believe her. And did it lead you to a good place eventually? Sometimes we gotta walk through them fires of hell to get to where we're going. Sometimes we need to be recreated. I woke up sweating. My blood pressure was so high. It was like the most intense thing ever. And my grandma was telling my mom, "Shame on you," in a dream. And then she said, "Jenny, prove them wrong." Wow. That's powerful. It really is. That's powerful. You know what? He will forge the way out, and I hate that you say you're still in hell, I want to, there's better things, you have all of us, but hopefully things work out for you, and you gotta live for you, you gotta do things for you. And if other people are not supporting you, listen, if you're not with me, you're against me. I don't believe in neutral. You know what I mean? So it's like whoever is not with you, Jenny, is against you. That's tight right there. I was like, yo, so too. You guys are my family right now, and I'm so appreciative beyond words. The O'Briens continue to inspire me. Absolutely. What a great, great family, man. What a great, great family. You know, and I hate in life how people, get, in these horrible, horrible situations, and they used to tell me like, oh, you can't help everybody. You can't solve everybody's problems. And it was hurtful. But I was like, you know what, we could keep trying. Yeah, but that's why we need to rid the corruption, and anytime we see corruption, we need to call it out and not be afraid. Not be afraid to call it out. Whether it's corruption on any level. No matter what level the friggin' corruption is. Now we got the Route 30 motion, and the things Riley didn't want us to notice, didn't want us to know, is going to be out in them motions. And exactly what is the court going to do about it? I realized recently people say the system is broken. The system is broken. No, the system is working exactly how it's supposed to. It was built that way. And you don't realize it. You know what? You're right. It was built that way. We may think the system's broken from our eyes because we're looking at it from an outer lens. And another thing, unless you've been through that situation, and even like a small situation, like as low as 2 weeks, just think being put in a box, go in jail for 2 weeks. You got 2 weeks before you can go to court. Now, oh, absolutely, man. And so does John DePietro. The Washington Bridge ain't the only thing in Rhode Island that sucks. John DePietro sucks too. John DePietro sucks as well. And unless you've been in the system, unless you've been through it, it's hard to. Absolutely right. John DePietro sucks. Oh my god. But yeah, unless you've been through the system, it's really hard to know what they go through, and you look at Trisha O'Brien and Big Ed O'Brien, and I'm sure they see the system for what they didn't at one time. They see the system as something different now as well, because they seen all the corruption. Like, they really give Eddie a hard time up there in the prison because he's always fighting for what's right. You take something, he's trying to get it back 2 times. So he's always fighting the system, bucking against the law, filing lawsuits. Eddie actually done a lot of change in prison. Like, he done a lot of good for a lot of people. Yes, absolutely. The pizza party. Everybody should be invited to a pizza party. And that's what they'll do. They'll do little kid stuff like that. They'll punish you where it hurts. They'll say something to your family, or they'll cancel your visit. You know, the system is absolutely not fair, or just never has been. When you experience it yourself or with a family member, it changes you. No one ever wanted to believe it. Not many know, sadly. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, you go in that place, they strip you down to your last molecule of dignity. You know what I mean? Humiliate you. Yeah, see, little things like that. Take away commissary because you asked when it's coming. Well, I only want to know when it's coming because, I've been in here 10 days and I need a pair of drawers. You know what I mean? Or I need some socks. I ordered some t-shirts. I need them shower shoes because you need shower shoes to take a shower because them shower floors are disgusting. Yep. John DePietro sucks. Hashtag that. But it's just disgusting. The food is like, only because I'm about to pass out from starvation, ahead and punish me for asking. No, probably not, and that's why he does ride-alongs with him. I gotta say though that dude is always out there, man. He is always outside. Like he be everywhere. Nah, you know what? You're absolutely right though. John DePietro is, yeah, he is what he is. He is what he is. I should call him as a witness on my case. I think he interviewed the guy from my case. Oh yeah, he stayed there for a while up there in Arizona. Yep. I guess there's a story from way back in the day, allegedly, with John DePietro, where they had a flop house, and I think he got sued, and they exposed his flop house where they would take, female reporters, get them all messed up and shit, Bill Cosby, allegedly. Don't know how true it is, but yeah, he was out there for quite a while. But he makes good money. He gets them views. You know what I mean? Like Jessica Machado. You know what I mean? Like I bet she's pulling in 10 grand now a month. I guarantee what do they call it? Messy Jessie is pulling in at least 10 grand a month now. Yeah, she's actually, so John DePietro as well. They're getting money. They're making money. Yeah, thousands. Absolutely. See, I don't get the per view numbers, the money for the per views. All I get is, I guess, 70% of whatever you guys give me, basically. They let me keep 70% of that. Any membership money, super chats, they take out 70%. No, I keep 70% and they get 30% of it. Other than that, yeah, I don't get the other money. Once I get up to 1,000 subs, do a couple other things, but Yeah, I'm doing something wrong, like in the algorithm. Yeah, she even said it, where her beef with Turtle Boy and the glare. I was watching some of the I had to, man, some of his petty streams. Even though I don't really like the glare, but I had to give him $3. Some of them petty streams are entertaining, and yeah, Jess was on there saying how, she never made more money. She went on vacation. She did all of these things, So oh yeah, they all be oh yeah, that petty stream. I gotta say, man, he even doing his petty streams on Jessica Machado. He did I think he did a JFK one. I was like, wow, he did a JFK stream the other day. You know, I know it's kind of crazy, Yeah, there's some YouTubers that are making really big money. I know a YouTuber that's over in the battle rap section. But yeah, some of these YouTubers are making, some big money. I'm not one of them, but but some of these guys are making some big money. You know, um, they'll leave their job and they'll just get in front of a microphone all day long and talk. See, Jessica tells everybody about her life, and they seem to be interested in that. They seem to like what's going on in her life. And now with Turtle Boy turning on her, and then what's that guy's name? The baker. Like, it's so entertaining at time. I'm look at these guys. He had a wig on the other day, pretending to be Jessica, and you're trying to keep up with everything. I'm like, look at this. Like, people must come over here to this Karen Reed movement, right? Right? You should have just said bachelor pad. Imagine people looking at this Karen Reed movement, right? And they're saying, where can I go and get justice for my brother? So they look at someone says, "Hey, go over there to the Karen Reed movement." So they come over here, and you got a turtle talking about sex cults. You got the glare doing petty streams. You know what I mean? You got JFK and them guys, not sure what they've been up to. You got the baker, the broken baker guy, whatever his name is, wearing wigs, talking about sex toys, and what Jay Walsh sends him a package. I don't know, some crazy stuff going on, and you're kind of looking around at all these people, and it's like, I'm out of here. You're kind of looking around at these people and saying, And this is what the Karen Reed movement became. You know, like, yeah, Brokeback Mountain McPerviston. Yeah, exactly. This is what the movement has became. And it's kind of like, and I think when Karen Reed was acquitted, like that was Turtle Boy's chance to get locked in and to really elevate and become somebody. Like he could have really took it to the next level. But nope, he had to be, you know, he had to do what broken turtles do. They poison the waters around them. You know, and he slowly gets people going at each other and just created a bad atmosphere. Someone told me last night that Alan Jackson and Karen said Turtle things intentionally, and that's his playbook. Is this true, you guys? I don't know what the playbook is. Sent Turtle. Yes, they did. DePietro was DePietro was against Karen Reed. DePietro was like, she guilty. Yes, my wife said he's a womanizer. You know, well, what they would do is, I think they would give Turtle Boy, you know, a story. He would print it, and then they would go in there and say, we heard this in the media. And then he could get that into court because now it's memorialized. You see, there's a little trick to it. You know what I mean? The problem, which I'm so surprised in Alan Jackson and them guys, that they probably left so much of a paper trail. You know what? The way to do that is, you know, you set up like an email account. You know what I mean? And you write the email and you leave it in a draft. You know, and then Alan Jackson checks it. Okay, he opens up the draft folder. Okay, boom. He gets his message from Turtle Boy. Bang, he sends one back in a draft folder. Turtle Boy signs in. He opens up his draft folder. And that's how they communicate, where nothing gets sent over the internet because it just stays in the draft folder. You know, and that's how, but, you know, Alan Jackson, Turtle Boy, you know, I mean, I don't know. Maybe they didn't walk this all the way through. You know, but I hate to say it, but, you know, Turtle Boy, I think he knows that, you know, it's coming to the end of the year very, very fast. Before you know it, summer's going to be over. We're going to be looking at September, you know, and I think he will be in trial. His trial should be underway by mid-November. And the judge already said in the trial was that the judge said that, like, that basically Turtle Boy already admitted it's all recorded. You press play, there's your evidence. You know, the judge said the evidence is press play. So now Turtle Boy, what his lawyers are going to have to do is they're going to have to show, did he cross that line from freedom of speech, you know, which a lot of people like, all right, I get it, you know, from freedom of speech to, you know, did you violate their constitutional rights? You know, so that's where that is going to be tough. And, you know, as shitty as Colin Albert is, I think that's going to be a major hiccup in that Turtle Boy case. You know, with Colin Albert being in school, and I know his grades were shit, but You know, as long as he was still eligible, that's what matters. It don't matter if his grades were shit. That's Division 3. You can work through that.
Yeah. Another round. Let's go. When every breakup ends in flames, but when you know. Yeah. Yo, when every split starts a war, it's no surprise. Every exit target got that chip on my eyes. Carolina Lindsay, all smooth like butter. But Meredith, nah, she climbed out the gutter. She didn't play the game, she flipped the script. Leaked messages hit hard like a cruise sun whip. Yo, Dawson on the rise, they spilling my tea. It's easier to blame her when you can't even see.
Yo, the common denominator ain't the ones who left. It's the mindset you wear. It's the rage you kept. When every breaker's about to blame, wait, some weight in flames. When every love is wanna eat the problem in this twisted game. Look at the record, see the lies they tell. I'm already stood tall now. Can't you see she ain't fell? Yeah.
Can't you see she ain't fell? Courts and filings like it's all a show, huh? Public meltdowns, master latest and low. Wanna paint her a villain when she spoke the truth. Meanwhile, behind closed doors, you pull all the sleuths. These tactics is classic, turning friends into foes. I see the problem when your shadows will grow. Every woman that leaves, nah, it ain't their fault. Why can't you see the cycle, man? You built this vault, yo.
When you play her for a fool, make her chest move blind. You just flex that narrative, see the way it unwinds. When every breakup's about to play, each moment lit in flames. When every lover suddenly the problem in this twisted game. Look at the record, see the lies they tell. I'm already stood tall and proud. Can't you see she ain't fell?
Yeah. Can't you see she ain't fell? So here's the lesson if you dare to engage. When the cycle of blame is just part of the stage. Remember, merge the one who didn't take the heat. When the common denominator's you, don't you dare hit repeat. Can't you see she ain't fell? Another round. Let's go. When every break.
Innocence shattered in a world so torn. They said it was fear reopening the doors, filled with whispers behind closed floors. A white boy convicted made it look fair, but in the shadow of justice the truth laid bare. Eddie was a name, but just a pawn in the game. Sacrificed and railroaded, nothing felt the same. Oh, just a boy from Somerville. They played with his life as if it was a thrill. Politics and pressure, shadows at play. Innocent hearts lost in this twisted ballet. He folded like glass, the DA showboating, just trying to amass. The system wanted justice,
but justice was blind, changing the laws, leaving truth far behind. Remove the judge who dared to be just. Eddie was demonized in the world's cruel thrust. Size mattered not when politics run deep. From day one he fought, but all they did was sweep. Oh, just a boy from Somerville, they played with his life as if it was a thrill. Politics and pressure, shadows at play, innocent hearts lost in this twisted ballet. And those inside knew the story was wrong. We could have done better, sang the old wrong song. Experts pressure to twist the truth arm in the court of despair. There was no charm. He never stood a chance from the very start. A tragic confession, a broken heart. Watch Eddie's face when the world turned cold. An innocent spirit caught in a tale retold. The system failed him, that much is clear. A boy from Somerville, lost in his fear. Yet in the ashes, his story remains of the justice betrayed and the bitter pains. Through the lens of history, we sing his plight. Remember the boy who stood up to the night. Just a boy from Somerville, they played with his life as if it was a thrill. Politics and pressure, shadows at play, innocent hearts lost in this twisted ballet. So let's tell this story, raise voices, unite. For every Eddie, let's stand up and fight. Just a boy from Somerville, forever will stand in the heart of the people. His truth in our hands.
They're absolutely the worst. All right, man. We've been building up to talk about the Rule 30. The moment the Rule 30 hits the court, like what happens, huh? They go over there and they unlock the door and let him go. No, it's not that easy. So basically, once all the paperwork's ready, right? When Eddie's lawyers, are ready to file the Rule 30 motion, at that point, it's not just paperwork, man. It's like a bomb being dropped, on a narrative that was built on politics. They know it's coming. That was built on fear. They know it's coming. It was built on manipulation, right? And inside of that filing, you're going to see evidence of an illegal search, right? The chain of custody stuff, evidence that was suppressed, the DNA notes, the evidence from the stairwell attack. I mean, so many things, and the alternative suspect, You know, the timelines, there's just so many things that could go into that. How about the ambush at the hospital? You know, and I still haven't even gotten into the notes, you know, his manipulation, like his blueprint on how to do this. Find the dirt, blow it out of proportion, reverse profile, you know, assume that manipulation, you know, everything was right there. I mean, this is not emotion, it's a mirror of what the Commonwealth did in that time. One second. It's basically, you know, the Commonwealth gets to see its own reflection. You know, excluded is pretty big. You know, so once that motion is filed, right, the Commonwealth has to respond. So first the judge will have it, and then the judge will give it to the Commonwealth, you know, and I think there's a 30-day gap in between everybody, right? So the Commonwealth, right, once the motion is filed, now they have to respond. You know, they don't get to hide, they don't get to ignore it. You know, they really can't pretend. They have to say something. They have to explain what happened 30 years ago, which probably no one in that damn office was around 30 years ago. You know, and they're looking at like, oh, they hit exculpatory DNA. What? You know, they ignored the stairwell witnesses, you know, like what? You know, like all types of stuff, you know. Um they let a body cab leave the scene. You know, they let a cab leave the scene. There's so many assuming questions. You know, why did they lie about the DNA columns? There's so many things that went on in the trial. You know, why did they redraw maps? You know, why they scratched out the phone under the notes? There's so many like kind of questions here. You know, why did they write find the dirt and blow it out of proportion? You know, so there's definitely, you know, a great chance here. And I don't know what the Commonwealth can really say about a lot of these things. there's really no clean explanation for any of this. They're gonna say, like, we don't know. We're willing to take the lumps, like Willie Lump Lump. And this is where I think the Commonwealth is going to start sweating at this point. They're going to start getting nervous, after we go through all of that, why they lied about the DNA columns, right? And they should be able to explain it better now in 2024. 5, 6. I don't even know what year it is right now. That's crazy. I was like 2024. I'm a little past tired, but and then you get the first real test where the judge is going to sit down and he's going to read every page of that shit because, now that the Commonwealth had gave it back, and they're probably going to say, you know what? Nah, we don't think this happened. We deny. You're lying. No. Right? That's probably what they're going to say. So then the judge is going to go over it, and the judge will sit down. He'll sip his little Dunkin' Donuts coffee, or he'll probably have a coffee with a shot of Sambuca in it. They start off early, and the judge will sit down and he's going to read every page of that. Oh, yeah, every page, every note, every affidavit, right? Every DNA report, make sure that the T's are crossed, the I's, all that stuff. All the witness statements, the inconsistency, he's going to look at all of that. And then the judge has to ask one question. Was justice done? Put your answer in the chat. Was justice done? Did justice get done? Get it done? Did justice get done? Not was Eddie guilty. Not did the jury believe the story. Not is it too late. Just did justice get done? And I think when you look at it, like I've been saying all night, right? When you look at it through a scope, I try, So you guys cover a lot of topics today. Well, you could catch a little bit of this after. I appreciate y'all. Miss Patricia White, thank you. So the judge is going to sit down. Like I said, he's going to read it all. He's going to read the affidavit. He's going to read, everything. The DNA report. The Eddie's excluded. He's going to remember that one. And then, like I said, did justice get done? And when, my opinion, you got the illegal search, right? You got the suppressed evidence, right? You got a screwed up timeline, you got DNA that's just all crazy, excluded, it's mismatched, it's not O'Brien's, goddamn. It sounded like a lawnmower was just driving up the street. You got the ambush, as a juvenile. How about the other suspects? You didn't even bother to talk to them when they all had motive. Somebody was attacked in the stairwell. And you just reversed it all. the reverse profile, not reverse throw. You didn't even bother to, pay it much attention. So did justice get done? And the answer is no, absolutely not. And if the judge sees, what we see, right, and they have to, right, the next step is an evidentiary hearing, and this right here is where witnesses will get called, right? You'll have people testifying, experts. This is where some of the investigators are going to get questioned. This is where Riley's notes are going to get, that's going to be awesome. Riley's notes are going to get dissected. The DNA lies will get exposed. So that's where the truth is going to get really, really loud. And I think that's the moment right there that the Commonwealth is really going to start sweating. Let's hope I'm right through all this. They're really going to start getting nervous at that point. And then we come down to the ruling. Oh, the turning point, the truth. What is it going to be? And I think after the hearing, the judge is going to have three choices. Grant the Rule 30 motion, right? Eddie gets a new trial. Conviction will be vacated, and the Commonwealth starts from zero. Deny the motion. The case goes straight to the Supreme Judicial Court. They can also go a partial relief where they could possibly, but unlikely, that they'll say the issues are too connected or interconnected. But really, you want to overturn the juvenile transfer hearing. That's the one. The juvenile transfer hearing is, that would, because if you can, and there's a lot of failures in that juvenile transfer hearing. So like, and like I said, if it gets denied, it'll go straight to the Supreme Judicial Court, and they'll read all this same stuff. It may just take a little longer, but we are shooting for, the juvenile transfer hearing. It was unconstitutional what happened to Eddie, everything that went down. So, and if not, we overturn the DNA, Eddie gets a new trial, but he's still facing life at that point. But if we can overturn the transfer hearing, and maybe we could talk a little bit about the transfer hearing tomorrow, yeah, that'll, but that is basically how the Rule 30 will go down. He could grant the Rule 30. Anybody have any questions about the Rule 30? Anybody in the class have any questions about what we went over today, class? So that's basically, how the Rule 30 will go. I mean, we really took it back, and I hope, I didn't overload y'all with too much information. And if the motion ends up going up to the, what do you call it, the SJC, the Supreme Court, I mean, this is where the Commonwealth loses control at that point, and the SJC will review all that shit. They'll lower the illegal search, the chain of custody gap, the suppressed evidence. What happened on the stairway? How about the other suspects that they just ignored? The reverse profiling, like they'll go over all of that stuff. So, it's looking up, so hopefully, we don't have to go that route. But they're gonna see what, y'all been saying for years, that this conviction cannot stand. And probably for the first time, damn, I just hit my nose on that shit. For the first time in like 30 years, Eddie actually has a chance. Eddie has the evidence. It's looking in his favor. You want to look out for your boy, give some memberships, grab a super chat, really appreciate it. I got cotton mouth now. I need to go buy some water. But now Eddie has the evidence. He got that science to back him up. He got them friggin' notes that had to be translated. He's got the truth, which he always had that. But what he has, I think he has more of the law on his side this time around. So maybe he has the law on his side now. I mean, the Rule 30 motion is not a long shot. I mean, it's not a Hail Mary. But we'll see. Rule 30s are for cases just like this, cases where justice may not have been done. And you're over there thinking that, they're guilty. I believe. The Somerville police and the DA's office completely stopped pursuing alternate leads within hours of arresting Eddie. Absolutely. I gotta squint and look like, boy, I keep hitting his damn microphone. But yeah, so, now hopefully the motion is not a long shot, I mean, that's what the Rule 30 motion is designed for, cases just like this. And oh yeah, by the way, justice was not done. I hate to say it, but McDaniel being 6 feet under is a plus. There you go. I like that. Talk spicy, Ed. Talk spicy. Oh, you're so welcome. You know, Mr. O'Brien, that was the first thing I wrote, but I didn't want to be disrespectful, so I erased it. Riley doesn't have the essential fortitude to show up. No, but I'll tell you what, he'll be waiting by the phone. What a shame of a human. Let's be sure and send Riley a postcard from Disney. Absolutely. Yes, the best chance Eddie has had in 30 years. That's what I'm saying, man. You know, like, and there's stuff that we haven't, that's not even out there yet. And, you know, that we'll see once that Rule 30 is filed, we'll definitely break that down, you know. So there's so much more, you know, so I can't help but think the position of Eddie, then as a child, and Eddie now as a man, he's controlled this time. Absolutely. McDaniels doesn't deserve any respect along with Riley. I like what you're laying down, big guy. I could respect that. Yes, the transfer hearing is critical. You know, that's what we're gonna probably tomorrow too. We'll talk about the transfer hearing. Because I think that we got to stay locked in, right? Because Eddie had to survive 30 years, right? So now the truth's finally gonna walk into that courtroom, right? So you got to stay locked in, stay focused, right? Because the next chapter, oh yeah, the next chapter in this story, and oh yeah, it's coming. That's that accountability shit, you know. That's that accountability, and I think we all gonna witness it together. And we know that the Commonwealth's gonna argue certain things, you know, and then we're gonna break down, you know, why their argument just don't work. You know, why this just don't work. You know, and let me get the flyer. Where my phone is. August 7th, there is still the book signing is out, but there's still gonna be, you know, at the VFW in Somerville. They're gonna have you know, a small piece of the documentary coming out, you know, the dude Rob that's producing it, you know, he's gonna be there, and they're gonna show, I think, 15 minutes of the documentary. And hey, shout out to Freebird just getting here. We'll be on the replay of all you do. Free Eddie, thank you. All love to the O'Briens. This was a good one, Freebird. You know, definitely a good one. Thank you for the 20. You know, haven't seen none of that in a couple days. You know, but shout out to that. I really appreciate it. You know, yeah, you know, we gotta, you know, we'll fight for the O'Briens, and there's so much in that Rule 30, you know, and the transfer hearing. is absolutely, you know, what you got to focus on. You know, because if Eddie overturns the transfer hearing, you know, and that's what we have to, look at. If we're looking at the transfer hearing, that's what has to be overturned, because if that gets flipped, then Eddie has time served. And, you know, bang, you know, and it's over. You know, so yeah, that transfer hearing is so important.
Cellmark, your chosen lab expert in the game. Tested the blood, telling the world the name. Eddie O'Brien, they said with conviction, but the truth came out like a hidden addiction. DNA tested, but what did it show? Excluded my man in that courtroom flow. Not a maybe, not a doubt, they sealed the fate. How you sell that story when the evidence won't wait? Stabbings and chaos, the narrative spins, but the DNA's whispering, where do we begin? You're trying to pin the blame, but you're missing the mark. Eddie's outside, lit up, nothing but dark. Can't blame the dog when it wasn't even home. This ain't a fair fight, Eddie's been alone. Janet Downing's world, blood on the slate, but the night's truth waiting can't seal Eddie's fate. How do you even tell when facts slip away? We dance round the lies like the night turns to day. Lights dim down, jury on pause in the courtroom theater. I'm just a part of the cause. You're trying to pin the blame, but you're missing the mark. Eddie's outside, lit up, nothing but dark. Can't blame the dog when it wasn't even home. This ain't a fair fight, Eddie's been alone. Oh, chaos in the streets, but the truth won't die. You can try to twist the knife, but look me in the eye. Exclusions in the lab, but you still wanna shout. Did it run through your veins? What's this all about? You're trying to pin the blame, but you're missing the mark. Eddie's outside, lit up, nothing but dark. Can't blame the dog when it wasn't even home. This ain't a fair fight, Eddie's been alone. You believe in the shadow, but the light's never wrong. Eddie O'Brien's excluded, that's where you belong. How you gonna sell that story? Leave him out in the cold, in the echoes of justice. The truth. Yeah. You know where I stand? Yeah. You know where I stand. These walls echo my name, but they don't know my truth. Captured in a frame, but my spirit's bulletproof. Took my freedom away, but couldn't silence my call. That whisper in the night, I'm innocent after all.
I am still here. Hear my voice, can't you see?
I rise with the sun.
Can nobody bury me? I am still here. Hear my heart, can't you feel?
Truth runs deep within.
It's the only thing that's real.
Yeah. Counting down the years,
but seasons on pause. Watch my dreams fade like behind bars. Hope is my anchor, a lifeline in the storm. Warm by time, but my spirit won't conform. They label me a ghost, but my heart's still alive. The weight of a crime that I never contrived. No truth could change me, no lie could erase who I am inside. Rooted deep in this place. Every sunrise whispers, justice will find a way. I keep my head high, living for that day. To those who believe, thank you for seeing me. The man beyond the wall, longing to be free. Refuse to let bitterness define my legacy. Instead I hold faith, letting hope set me free. One day these dates will swing wide, truth to walk with pride. And when that moment comes, I'll be standing side by side. Until that day arrives, I stand tall in my fight. Keep saying who I am, voice echoing through the night. I carry my story, it's far from over now. A heart of resilience, I'll show you just how. I am he and he is me. I am innocent, you see. My story's still being written. One day I shall be free. I'll chase the dawn, I'll seek the light. I won't back down. With every step I take, I'm claiming solid ground.
All right, man. There we go. That's, almost coming up on 3 hours, people. I really appreciate that. Long days, long nights. Appreciate everybody. They said John DePietro's flop house. That's right. That's what they say. They said back in the day, yeah, like a flop house or some shit, But appreciate everybody. That's allegedly. Who knows? Yeah, appreciate everybody for sticking around, having that faith in me, but yeah, Rule 30, man, here we are. The one nobody wants to talk about until it's too late, man. But that, I mean, you know what? This is gonna be the moment, when they're negotiating that, I think we all are gonna be on like kind of pins and needles, it's because here's the truth, every choice we make in life leaves a footprint. You know what I mean? And some are rugged, some are like, in the cement and never going anywhere. Some are being washed, by the water and stuff, it depends, and some are just stamped in that heavy grade concrete, permanent footprints, undeniable, and waiting for the day someone comes back to measure them big 14-inch shoes. Them big old feet. But shout out to Eddie, man. Shout out to O'Brien. Shout out to, everybody in the chat that, stuck with me. I must have some privacy thing that I'm unaware. I work on it. No problem. Appreciate that. I'm not sure why. But I'll look on my end too. Guys, just imagine Eddie walking out the building into the arms of his family. I know that would be awesome. I got Venmo too. Yeah, that would definitely be awesome, but as we, close out tonight, I want you just to think about, that the Rule 30, it's not about punishment, it's not about patterns, it's about recognizing, what got screwed up a long time ago. It's like that storm keeps showing up above Eddie's head, throw him a life jacket, that's like, as a minor, it's just, it's unrealistic. And I think that this is about accountability, not as a weapon, but as a mirror for the Commonwealth to look in the mirror, in a mirror that doesn't distort, that doesn't lie, that doesn't flatter, and look at the mistakes that you made, so if you're listening right now and you feel that tug in your chest, that little voice is saying, damn, that might be me. Good. Maybe you're still in a part of the story where change is possible for the ones way in the back, where maybe redemption is on the table and maybe you can rewrite the ending before, the Rule 30 writes it for you, and if you know. Because when you know better, you do better. Or life will do better for you. And trust me, you don't want life picking up the pen. Just remember, when you know, you know.
Square one was a stage, the scripts were all signed. Before the first siren, before the yellow line, a kid from the corner, a town in a cage. They traded his youth for the front page rage. 30 long years in a shadow-bound cell for a story they manufactured to sell. But ink starts to fade and the truth starts to bleed when power and ambition are all that they need. This is Eddie's truth, rising from the floor, knocking like thunder at the courthouse door. You can bury the facts, you can script out the youth, but you can't lock away Eddie's truth. Yeah, the silence is breaking, the walls have to fall. Eddie's truth is gonna outlive them all. They talked about justice, looked at the polls, trading a life for their political goals. Nash wrote the pages, the web spread the light, exposing the ghosts that were manufactured that night. The Somerville streets know the weight of the lie, how a gavel can swing while the innocent cry. But July brings the motion, the Rule 30 file, to strip all the grease from a rigged up trial. This is Eddie's truth, rising from the floor, knocking like thunder at the courthouse door. You can bury the facts, you can script out the youth, but you can't lock away Eddie's truth. Yeah, the silence is breaking, devotion to the Somerville streets.
Knocking like thunder at the courthouse door. You can bury the facts, you can script out the youth, but you can't lock away Eddie's truth. Yeah, the silence is breaking, the walls have to fall. Eddie's truth is gonna outlive them all. Just the truth. Eddie's truth. Eddie's truth.
It's Eddie, yo. Yo. Yeah. The 5 o'clock news, a 15-year-old boy they could easily use. They threw his clean clothes in a bloodstained car and locked up a peacemaker behind iron bars. They call him a predator to hide their own lies, but we see the truth when we look in his eyes. A loyal young soul, so gentle and polite. We're standing together to finish this fight. Unchain the gentle giant, let a good soul breathe. Free Eddie the Teddy, it's time he's released. Break down the courtroom walls, let the truth ring clear. Bring our selfless boy home in the 30-year tear. They hid all the palm prints, the DNA strands, put a lifetime of blame on a child's scarred hands. But the science is speaking, the silence is broke. We're tearing the fabric of the web that they spoke. He's grateful and compassionate, steady and true. An innocent man wearing prison cell blue. The system can bend, but it's breaking today.